Baseball not always the best team wins, right? You gotta still love to get done.
Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast Baseball Talk, powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. It is here. It is time. Let's roll. Let's play some ball. March is coming up, and if you're not already signed up for some tournaments or whatever you want to do, please check out game7baseball.com. You can go to Youth Baseball Midwest. We have our Super 7 series. There's 7 tournaments that we will be attending with our Saturday at the Park. We will be live streaming 14U Championship Baseball on Sunday afternoons. We have a lot of fun. Enjoy it greatly. So please make sure you check that out. Go to game7baseball.com, register your team, and we'll see you at the ballpark, folks. If you're a social kind of person, check us out on X at YBM_cast. Yes, IG, Facebook, and TikTok. I don't even know what that means, but we're there at Youth Baseball Midwest. Follow us today. We appreciate it. Like, subscribe, share the show out. We got some good stuff for you today. As always, joining us on the Prime Sports Midwest Call Link, the guru, Mr. Kevin Moulder from Prep Baseball. What's going on, Kevin?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. And to my right, joining us in the studio is a former Francis Howell standout and Baylor, right?
UIC, Francis Howell, UIC, and then Baylor. Yes, sir.
There it is, right up there. And Milwaukee Brewers, Oakland Athletics. Got some opportunities there. Nate Orf. Nate, thanks for coming by, man.
Yep, thanks for having me.
And now, though, you've come back. This is, to me, I think the thing that is really what kind of started me on this path with Youth Baseball Midwest was watching all the people like yourself coming back to the community, taking your talent, your abilities, and giving it back into the younger athletes.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. That's how I think the cycle naturally flows. And, I think anybody they got to play for a long time, or, anybody really, you always have those influences that come into your life and help push you to the next level. So, I've always felt like the longer guys play, almost the more humility they have in the process of it, and so I try to operate out of that gear and, assume everybody that I run into is going to make it to the big leagues and kind of just see how you can help bridge the gap to there, and knowing that it's not going to work out for probably, 99%. And but I think the journey of that process is what matters more anyway. So that's how I like to attack it. Yeah.
I love that because, and Kevin, we see this a lot, and I like what you said. That's just reality, 99%. But it is about how we develop these young kids along the way, because we know they are coming back to the communities. They're going to be coaching their kids. They're going to be a high school coach. They're going to be a mentor somehow, maybe in a club, this or that. It is important how we do those things, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, Nate is a product of one of the best high school programs in the state, and Coach Perkins has been a mainstay there. And we've talked about, hey, good teams versus good programs and what's the difference. And, Nate, not trying to speak for him, is certainly a product of a good program. And now he has a desire to give back to younger guys and help them achieve and feel some of the stuff that he's gone through. And I certainly feel the same way, like of what I do. So if you have a positive experience, it's going to help make you want to give someone else a positive experience, and you're kind of passing that along.
Yep, absolutely. And I think there's plenty negativity out there in the sports world, especially youth sports. And then, social media on top of it for kids as they get a little older in high school ages and college. And for me, it would be really difficult to to grow up in this era, seeing what they see and seeing only the best of a certain player, or, the top numbers in the state. And, I just, for myself, I can't imagine, feeling that far behind at really any point. I think, caught the tail end of the good old days where, I, went and played baseball, and I go fishing and I go hunting, and, I didn't really know who was, in the next county over, and it just got to play the game. So I think for me to try to let these kids know that, if you're a sophomore and you hit a ball 86 miles an hour out for an exit velo, I'm like, that's fantastic. Like, holy smokes, that's great. Like, don't worry about the kid in Texas hitting it 100. It's like, you're all right. Let's barrel up more balls and learn how to win and execute when you need to. And like you'll be all right, So I think that's a major challenge that these guys face these days.
I love what you said, because we see it all the time. You see it at the professional levels, college levels. These guys are just banging away. My average exit velo is 100, and I'm hitting a $195 because I've hit it 100 miles an hour at everybody. And that's just the nature of the game, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And so talk to us a little bit about your experience. I think it's interesting how you said, you hunt and fishing. When you were playing ball, like even before high school, what was some of the things, what was that like? Who were you playing for, and who was coaching you?
Yeah. Kind of grew up playing for my dad and friends and all that stuff, which to me, again, is a priority of play with your friends and have a good time. I think matters more than anything at those youth ages. Obviously, once you get up into the high school level, and I think I'm, first of all, I've been trying to intake as much information the last handful of years as possible, so I can help as much as possible with the given environment. So I really think that once you get to about that freshman, sophomore year in high school, it's like really time to make a push. If you have big hopes and dreams, right? And that's kind of the reality of it. Prior to that, I think you should be playing ball and having fun with your friends, and, learning how to win and compete hard and all of that stuff. So personally, I didn't even play competitive, fall ball or anything until my junior year in high school. Got in with St. Louis Pirates and Rick Strickland, and he was one of those guys for me that just, I had a friend who connected me to him and the team, and they, welcomed me on there. And that was just one of those guys that you meet that just changes the trajectory of your future, and still close with Rick. And he's one of those guys that that truly just cared about each player that he came across as well, So for me to get to run into him and him have that outlook on his players meant a lot to me. And again, and that's how I try to carry out each interaction I have with my guys. And I think from there it was just kind of getting in the mix and then getting that college opportunity. And then I just think that the way I see it is, as the game gets more serious for you, you play through and you try to beat the level, and you just kind of keep playing that game, and it never changes. So no matter if you go to college at a D3, JUCO, D2, it's like you need to work harder than everybody else on the team, try to be the best player in your team. And nowadays with the transfer rules, like try to get, to the next level, even in the college ranks, and then do the same thing, rinse, repeat. Right. And I think that's kind of the only path, and key on work harder than everybody else and be a more reliable and winning player than the other guys you're around. Yeah.
Kevin, we were talking a little bit about this even last week, right now with the experience with your two sons and what you're doing. And it's kind of that sounded very familiar, didn't it?
It is. And there was a lot to unpack on it. Nate covered like from the start to the end of his career there quick. I love what he said about playing with friends, especially early on. And then there does come a point, obviously, where you do have to, I don't know, turn it on or decide this is what we're going to focus on. Just a couple questions for you. What other sports did you play? If you didn't play fall baseball, were you playing football or soccer or hockey, or what else did you do? And like, I kind of always call it like a pyramid or a funnel effect. When did you become serious? I'm sure you were serious while you were playing baseball, but when did you start to focus on baseball? What are some of the other activities or sports you did in your youth?
Yeah, I mean, I played everything growing up, right? Like early on, soccer, basketball, all of that stuff. And you said it perfectly with the pyramid, because I think it was, played like sixth grade, was still playing basketball as well. And it was like early on, I think hockey was the first sport to go, and then it was like soccer went, then basketball went, and I played football until my senior year, and I just didn't have the looks that I was wanting or hoping for going into my senior fall. So I really regretfully, I wanted to be out there every Friday, but I couldn't play football anymore, just because I had work to do in that fall season there to get a better look or get to where I wanted to go. So I think anybody that plays multiple sports or that did understands the amount of athletic development that they received from their time within the other sports outside of the game. And you see it time and time again from big leaguers, big league quotes of just saying, go play all the sports you can as a kid and all that. Right. And I don't see how playing a sport like baseball that doesn't emphasize running, agility, some of these things, and it has a lot of downtime even within the inter-game play. I don't see how that solely that and a high workload into games can maximize a player's athletic potential, which with all of this stuff, I think it's all about just maximizing the player's potential, right? So I think from early on, if you isolate a kid into an environment where they're not having to naturally react and respond with quick, different agility type movements and throwing a lot of different experiences their way, I just don't think that you're going to truly maximize their athletic potential.
So, Brian, here's a couple of interesting thoughts, and there's multiple different ways to get there. And some of the stuff I'm just realizing as I'm going through this process with my own sons is, you think about there's experts now. Like, our training has gotten so good, and these high school kids are stronger and, in my opinion, better than they've ever been. Now they're focusing on it. They're weight training. A lot of them are doing stuff close to year round. But I do really value the multi-sport athlete, and taking it down to the youth level, why I think it's important to play multiple sports. If your main goal is to be a baseball player, great. Think about the things you're going to learn playing basketball. You're going to learn how to cut. Your hand-eye is going to get really good learning how to dribble a basketball, especially the guards. That's going to help you be an infielder or a catcher. Soccer, also really, really good for your footwork. Football obviously builds toughness. Coaches talk to scouts or college coaches. They love football players because generally there's a toughness. And again, depending on your position, you're learning things like cuts and route running and quick reaction stuff that you can train that with a quote unquote expert at one of these facilities. It's probably more fun to do it just going out and playing those other sports. And when we're talking about however young you want to call them, 6-year-olds all the way to 12, 13, 14-year-olds, if we're looking at burnout and stuff like that, I personally would rather choose to train those kids with them, not even knowing they're really trained. They're just going out and having fun and playing basketball or soccer or whatever it is, as opposed to, hey, we're building you to be a professional baseball player one day, which is not the goal. I'm not saying, but as opposed to taking them and saying, hey, we're going to do our agility training with an agility coach today. We're going to go do our whatever training. You can get that through other youth sports.
I loved what you said, the piece and what you brought up there, Kevin, the footwork. I think baseball, your feet are taking you to the baseball, all those things. And like you said, it's such a reactionary sport that you're not really thinking a lot about your feet. If you start thinking about, I got to move my foot or do this, you're done. You can't think like that. It is reactionary. And to your point, Kevin, and what you were talking about with the drills and the things of that nature, football especially, and soccer, what you said about soccer. I played both sports growing up, and it is demanding on your agility, your cardiovascular work, everything like that. You got to be in shape to play those sports. And those things to me are, you're not going to get, and in basketball, especially running up and down the court, all the footwork, to me, those things go into that much more than a baseball in that respect.
Yeah, I think I like to think of it as, running is a totally natural human movement. Like we're built, watch a 2, 3, 4-year-old go run around. They know how to run, right? And so I think, like you're saying, if you're not being in that position to go play basketball or play soccer and just kind of keep feeding that natural ability to already run, then to me, you're going to slow it down or lose that natural ability, which I think projects to future injuries down the road. Because now, so this is one of my main problems that I have with my in-season consulting clients is I'll get a video clip of them hitting, and maybe they get a hit and they smash a double, and I'll watch them run out of the box. And I'm like, man, if that's the fastest that you're going to run, over the course of a tournament, and maybe you're going to get the top speed like 3 or 4 times, like there's just no way you're maximizing your athletic potential versus going and playing a soccer game or 2 or 3 in a weekend where you have to run, for an hour at a time, and you're really opening up those legs and the levers and strengthening all the tissue in between, right? So I think that I think the dynamic athlete that you get out of all these other sports, I don't think it can compare even to just training, because it's such a different concept to have the moves normalized and the small tissue strengthens in the hips and all around the joint, rather than training in a singular manner for an hour a week or whatever that is for a couple months a year. I just think it doesn't compare. Kevin, how old are your kids, just for reference as we continue on here?
I have I have 3 kids, but my 2 boys, I have an 8-year-old boy, a 10-year-old boy, and then a middle school daughter.
Right on. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I like this thought process, because I think, we hear this refrain from, professional coaches when a guy's coming back from injury or hadn't played in a while. It's hard to replicate the intensity in practice or game speed. We get these things, and I think that's the reality of it. If you're just working out, training, you're doing that, you're going hard, but there's something different about being in a competitive environment. The adrenaline is different. The mind is different. The whole atmosphere is different, and that competitiveness that goes when you start playing another sport or you're in that. I think those are things, to me, you can't. It's hard to replicate that.
Yeah, and you guys know, and I'm curious what your thoughts here, but I think if you try to replicate that intensity in an outside training environment with a youth, I don't even know if it's, sophomore or junior in high school down, if you try to replicate that intensity, like when does a switch go off when they're like, I don't really want to do this anymore? I'm sure you guys have seen this. I'm kind of curious your thoughts on that.
No, that's really funny and 100% accurate, and kind of goes back to the comment of, like, you look at burnout or why kids quit playing certain sports. I think making things competitions, having fun are important. I think that's what the multi-sport, and then also getting away from certain sports. If you're not playing baseball for 5 months out of the year, I view that as kind of a good thing at the youth level, especially because it makes them that more excited to get back to it. And I was just laughing thinking about my 2 sons. I got my one son who's a little bit older, who just eats it up. Will do whatever he wants to do drills, and my younger son, no drills, just wants to play and is super hard to quote unquote coach. So how do I get to him? It's by doing competitions with other sports, and we just get there a different way. 2 different personalities, 2 different ways to go about it. And I think as as a coach, whether you're talking about high school level, college level, pro level, youth level, I think you got to figure out, the job of the coach is how to get to your athlete, whatever age. And it's just different problems at different ages, but you can't treat them all the same, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm fascinated by the human experience and how, I think, I used to have a saying like my body's smarter than my mind, right? So I would just all the time find my mind getting in the way of my body to operate, right, to its max potential. So I give just the human nature and our ability in our brain and just the neuroscience behind it all and the way that we can intake information and from a primal level on, I give it just tons of credit, and knowing that it's going to be able to handle the situation far better than me trying to figure it out. So I'm fascinated by what you just said about the difference in your boys, and I'm very curious, how it's going to play out. I'll check in 10 years or so, but if he intakes, the younger one intakes information so different, but potentially he's intaking more, say, because of what he sees and his experience while he's say the switch is on during those experiences within the competition, versus if you were to push him hard, similar, or force him into the same drills that his older brother does, and he doesn't like it, because my interpretation of what would happen then is he's gonna block that ability to learn in the creative part of the brain. That's all gonna get blocked off, and then you're gonna end up with kind of a stale athlete. You know what I mean? And again, and I think the goal, and this is from my own experience as well, was maximize your player. I'm just going to try to maximize what I can do and see where I end up. And I think that's the right way to go with these kids. So I'll check in about 10 years on how this plays out.
Yeah. And now I'm talking about the youth level. Obviously, at the high school level, I think it is time to start pushing. Like if you're working with a kid and he tells you he wants to be a college baseball player, well, there are expectations there, and there are certain things that kid has to get to a certain level to be able to do that. So, in my opinion, that is the time to push. But specifically with my sons, but I feel this for the youth level in general. I never ask my kids to go, hey, or go. I don't tell them we're going to hit or we're going to field. But if they ask me, I always say yes. But I always feel torn because my older one will ask me and my younger one won't want to go. And so I'll bring the older one, and I'm like, there'll be a day I'm not going to force them because I don't want them to not like this experience.
Yeah. I think that I liked what you said. It said, but I kind of go the opposite in certain ways, because it's just something I think I talk about the body follows the mind. Your body cannot operate if your mind isn't working. Period. If your brain's dead, your body's dead. You might have physical action, but you have to I think there is a thought process here in the sense of how do you then get to what Kevin's dealing with? And I think that's exactly it. You have one kid that his mind operates in a different fashion. I'm going to go. Let's go, Dad. He's kicking you in the butt out the door. Let's go, Dad. We got to go hit. The other kid's like, I want to sit here, and I may go out in the backyard and run around and play tag and do that. And that's where his mind is. And I think you have to leave that there. I think you have to deal with that in that fashion. So when you say, hey, but we set these parameters, and so when it's time to go to practice, this is what we do. The other kid, his mind is much more fluid in what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. And so you allow him to grow that way. And you put those things in that position, especially when they're young. Because if you force that, what you do is you create an anti-thought in the mind towards what they're doing. And this is just the way it is. They're like, I don't want to do this. I didn't want to go do this anyway. So you're creating this mindset that says, if we say baseball, I'm done. And this is what the kids do, because it's a forced issue. It's not, I didn't want to do that to begin with.
I got to go deeper on this because now I'm fascinated. This is partly selfish, motivated, because I want to ask Nate this, knowing his background. So we talked about the older one, the younger one, and I'm trying to apply this to the broad picture here. But my younger one, he loves to play games by himself, whether it's shoot baskets. He won't want to do it with me or a friend, but he loves to play wall ball in my house. In fact, I have a hole in my living room drywall because he plays wall ball.
Build another wall for him. Keep it going.
He will be out at practice, and we have a pretty nice 8-year-old baseball team, and he is a very good fielder. But he fields everything on the run and refuses to set his feet. And I have not coached this out of him. And I'm going to just allow it. But there's other coaches that have, I want to be respectful. They know baseball. Some of them even played a little bit, at a college level, or have older sons. So they've seen the instructors, hey, you have to have your feet set. And I'm like, hey, just leave Tommy alone. I see the same thing you see. You're not wrong, but I just want him to keep doing this, and one day I will teach him all the mechanics of different balls and like how we're moving our feet. But right now, like, let's just let this fly. I want to get your opinion on that, because I think your path is super interesting, how you ended up in the positions that you ended up, because it's nothing what you did in high school. And if that like helped translate into making you the player that you were too, it's kind of funny that you weren't, quote unquote, like brought up to be a certain thing and you ended up being something different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful. I this is getting juicy. I love it. A lot of thoughts here. First thought, when I was in high A, our manager had us doing some hitting drills, right? And we're like, it was some Ichiro drill off a machine, so it was very challenging. Not many balls put in play, and I'm like, let's go see what he hit. So that's when I learned the lesson of the person that I've been taking information from. What did they hit? So at what depth do they understand what is going on? And I'm not saying in any manner that if you never hit or played at the high level that you don't understand the right. What is going on, because especially nowadays more than ever, there's tons of people. I know a guy running. He's been big league hitting coach for a few years. He's been the director of hitting for a couple major league clubs, still currently in the major leagues. He was a physical therapist, very intelligent guy. He played baseball in college at a small school, kind of built his way up. And so, he doesn't fit into that mold. So I'm not saying that it can't be done. And the only people that know how to hit were guys that, made it to the big leagues and were hitters, because that's proven untrue. If that were the case, then I think the people that are at the head of the game now in the hitting world, that hole wouldn't have been left there for them to fill. And that's kind of how I see that has played out. So, but for myself, I like to say, thankfully, I made it to a level where you the highest level in the world, so you see the best players in the world play, and the way that the best in the world talk and exchange information and tips and all of that is just different than a lot of the things you hear and see online and YouTube and social media, which is, again, it's why I got into social media myself, on Instagram, putting content out and information out, because I just felt that the stuff out there is not very accurate or appropriate to maximizing each player's max potential, right? So that's kind of why I got into that world. Side note, but yes, and then back to your son. Yeah, my first question is he getting the out?
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, done. It's what's the point? And the point is you get the out, and you're absolutely right. And this is how I feel about the players that I work with as well. Is I'm trying to maximize their athletic potential as long as I can from the earliest age on. And then when you get to that point where you can really hone in and sharpen the thing, when it's necessary, then they'll be able to hold that space and they'll be able to accomplish that task, right? But now you're honing that that consistent gear with a whole lot of depth around it, which is what your son will thankfully have from doing run throughs his whole life. But I think there's a ton of value in that. And I'll go one more here, because I was a catcher in high school, catcher in college, couple elbow surgeries, played a little outfield my last year at Baylor. And then when I got to pro is the first time I ever played the infield. So I had to learn how to be an infielder at the professional level. And in that world, if you don't figure it out, right away, then you're home real quick. So, I learned from, my first year, I'm like, get the out. Like I made so many errors early on. It was such a foreign concept. And I was like, I get the ball in the glove and hit him in the chest. And I don't care how that's going to happen in interplay. Now, outside of that, I trained my butt off to get mechanically appropriate and technically correct. And, I went to some extremes with my training to make sure that my in-game consistency would just continue to build. But I use those cues, get the ball in the glove, hit him in the chest, and all the way up in the biggest moments of my major league career and the most stressful situations I was ever put in, I'd have that cue, ball in the glove, hit him in the chest. And I don't care what my body does to accomplish that task. If someone's, I never had a coach say, hey, I know you got the out, but you shoulda, anything else. That's the whole point. So yeah, that's how I kind of feel about that.
Nate, in what positions did you play in big league games? Like what your whole career, what position did you play multiple spots?
Yeah. I mean, I debuted at second base. Then I started at short, played third base, played right field. And then I was a defensive replacement. Defensive replacement in the playoffs at second there. So,
okay. And then if we take your college career, what positions did you play?
I mean, catcher. Yeah.
Catcher. So 5. Yeah. So you've played in college and pro ball. You played every position except for first base, center field, and left field.
Yeah. I mean, I played left field a ton in pro. Yeah. So really first and catcher were the only ones I wasn't consistent at, I would say. Yeah.
This is my other thing about youth baseball specifically. Ooh. In like, obviously your best athlete is going to play shortstop. And like, if you start at the youth level, like the very youngest, when you first start out, your best players play first base and pitcher, because those are the guys, like, you got to put your best guy at pitcher because otherwise he might die. And then your first baseman's the only kid that can catch the ball. So he's really important. But then it kind of shifts as you get a little older, past machine pitch probably. Then like shortstop, right, and catcher are like your two most important positions. But I do find it important to, even those very best kids, to, now it doesn't necessarily have to be in the game, but play them all over the field or train everyone the exact same. We're going to do outfield. We're going to do balls at third. We're going to do balls at first. We're going to try to have a lot of guys catching up. Not everyone could probably do the catching piece, but you try. And I just feel like that builds a well-rounded baseball player. And like, even when we get to events like the future games where you're dealing with the quote unquote elite high school players, I always give this talk beforehand. I'm like, hey, you guys are at the top of the food chain. You guys got to understand, like, there's kids that didn't get invited to this that are now going to be working their tail off to get to your spot. But here's the other thing you have to understand. You're going to get a bunch of phone calls here in when August 1st hits, and you're going to start getting recruited. And you guys are all the best, at what you guys do at currently right now. But when you guys get to college, and you might think you are the best shortstop in the state, and maybe you are, but you go to whatever big school and there is a 21 or 22-year-old guy there, not even kid, a 22-year-old man there that's an all-conference performer, and coach says you're going to play left field. You got to be open to be playing multiple spots if you want to get on the field. So I always tell these kids, like, you're baseball players. You're not third baseman. You're not shortstops. That, you know, there are some exceptions to this rule with pitchers, and you know, certainly left-handed throwers are limited. But I do think that multiple positions is important, especially within youth baseball. And your story is like the perfect example of this.
Yeah, I think even like you said, being able to practice from the same spot, you know, even if I was starting at third base or second base, I learned early in my career that, you know, if I was playing a month straight at third base and where it's just game after game at third, I would lose a little bit of that athleticism, that burst and the range if I kind of got used to just training at third and then I would play my game at third, and it's just so repetitive. It's a wider stance, it's a lower base, and just kind of doing the same set so many times. So I learned through my career that, you know, no matter where I played, I would go take my ground balls and do ground ball work at shortstop to start, because that would just open up my field and open up my arm and my legs, and I have to cover so much more ground. And then I would shift over to my spot that I'm playing that day, and then really hone the technical aspects of that position, and then get out of there. So, I mean, I absolutely agree with being able to make the longer throws and everybody. And you know, and I was a kid, you know, in the pro world, I never had a good enough arm to play shortstop until 3 weeks before my major league debut, when the prospect went down with an injury and I was the next shortstop up. So I started learning to play shortstop 3 weeks before I played it in the major leagues. So, you know, it's like, good thing I had done some work at short, you know, and that's where I learned that real value of being able to handle more as an athlete and maximizing the athlete. And, you know, so throughout my career, kind of the way that I trained and the work that I put in and the way I worked, it just paid off at different times. So I think you're absolutely right with that.
I liked what you said about, you know, how you set yourself in motion there, because that's some of the things, you know, that's what I said, the body follows the mind. You set 2 mental cues. That's a mental focus, while you continue to create physical focus. You're going to work. I'm going to get to the spots. I'm going to do the mechanical things and keep training my body to do those things as I set my mental focus in place. But it still boils down to catch the ball, throw the ball. Yeah. And that is the basis of anything within baseball. If you can't do that, I don't care how much you train to put yourself, like you said, Kevin, I love that. Just go field the baseball and throw it to first base and get the out. We've kind of forgot that in the midst of all the footwork and the training and the cones and this and that. Can you get to the baseball, put it in the glove? And it comes back to the old saying where you say smoother is better. You know, I want to see a kid that's smooth, goes through it and whatnot. Because then you start to see kids rush because they got, can I get the out, whatnot. The mind overtakes the physical focus. Stay with where you're at. Start with your mental focus. What are your cues? For you, it was ball in the glove, hit him in the chest. Yeah. And all the physical focus, the training came. And I guarantee you kept that mental focus, the physical training that you did, you focused your body in the intent of the mechanics, got better the more you did that. And you kept that mental focus to where it set the physical focus in motion to put you in a position to make the out.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I'll share one more story on my own kind of career here, but you know, I took the training. I was always chasing edges, right? I was an undrafted guy. I had to maximize my potential. That was the game that I was playing, and then hope it, you know, took me to where I wanted to make it. So in a world of, you know, super talented top end athletes of the really the world period, I had to learn to be able to penetrate those guys and provide value to the team each day. And that's how I was going to get in the lineup and continue being able to build a resume and so on and so on. So my training consisted of everything from balance beam work, like juggling while I'm on a balance beam, tons of time on a wall with a ball, 3 balls or whatever it was, and doing all kinds of different stuff, studying kind of masters of movement like Ido Portal, who became famous from Conor McGregor. His move was an Ido Portal concept. So I'm studying all these masters of these different arts and crafts, trying to get my edge for what I need. what falls underneath, get it in, catch the ball in the glove, hit him in the chest, right? And it paid off. Really one of my last plays of my career when I was put into a playoff game for the last inning as a defensive replacement at second base. And we had a big lead and the game started squeezing in tight. We had some, all-star closer and another, proven veteran that had a little bit of like control problems, and the game just started squeezing tighter and tighter. And I think we were up by like 1 run, bases loaded, 2 outs. Jose Abreu, a MVP caliber player's up with 2 strikes, and he hits a short hop to me, like a top spun rocket short hop, like an absolute like the worst ball you could ever hope for in your life. And in that moment, looking back at the video, my footwork was flawless. The balance that I had, the center of balance I had, and the ability for my feet to kick back like 3 or 4 inches and just create space for my hands to operate and keep the ball in front of me while moving back and staying aggressive and get the ball in the glove and hit him in the chest. It paid off there, and that's the physical side. The mental side was what was going on in the mind as this game is squeezing more and more and more. And I think there's a reality that happens for all baseball players, that we all have the same thoughts, and the thoughts in that moment are, if you botch this, you'll be like Buckner, you'll be all over. This is Oakland's looking for their first playoff series win in like forever, and it's like, you could mess this up. Like, you better not mess it up. Like, this is the major leagues. All of these thoughts, they're really rolling through there. But it's training in a way, and having those kind of cues to go, all right, mine's like, go make a play here. Like, go make a play, get the ball in the glove, hit him in the chest. So, and then being able to switch you into an aggressive, controlled, confident mindset for your athleticism, again, to play out to the max of its potential. That, to me, that was like a beautiful thing for my career, to have that moment to where you really have to fight through all of those things that you train for and have it play out. Thank God, well, because, that would have been a tough one to swallow if it didn't. But, even following that play, I had a guy, multi-year all-star, come up to me, and his eyes were wide, and he's like, dude, that was an amazing play. He's like, I was, crapping my pants over there, and it's like, okay, that's when I realized, like, it wasn't just me, like, it's a playoff game in the major leagues, and it got real tight. So, it's hard, man. My whole system from training, on the hitting side, from the youth age up, is to simplify the hitting process down to a couple cues that helps maximize that player's performance and help them understand a simple process that's going to allow for kind of the depth of that story that I just told, that's going to allow for that depth to play out within those cues, because the mind has to be simple and tight, and the body has to be free to be able to accomplish the task you need to accomplish. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to be a constrained athlete, and and that's, I see a lot of constraining of athletes in the youth world. So that's really why I'm in the world period and operate the way I do.
It is funny, and I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on hitting, specifically at the youth level. And I don't know if I should say this comment before you talk or not. It is interesting that
say whatever you think.
I don't want to bait him. I want to hear what he has to say. But I'll kind of take the premise where I'm looking for this to go. So, I personally feel like there's a misconception of like how you're going to hit in the big leagues is not how we're going to train you to hit at the youth level necessarily, because you're not ready to do everything that is at this point. Like, and now I'm interjecting my opinion, which is unfortunate. But what I'm trying to say is I want to try to build a kind of a pure hitter, a complete hitter at the start of the career. And what I feel like happens at the youth level is we hit fast forward, and we're trying to get to a finished product that can't happen at really ages 6 all the way through, for most kids, 19 or 20 years old, where we're teaching kids to lift and to do things that they're not ready to do, even though I don't disagree with what's happening at the older levels, because they're capable and they're paid to do it. And do you get my drift at all on what I'm?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so where do we want to go with this? You're absolutely right. I also think there's a misconception of what hitters in the big leagues look like, because there's a time where they're working, and in the time of work, and trying to catch a feel, say that not every ball is a line drive, and so there will be some like balls fouled off in order to catch a feel. I played with the guy Eric Young Jr., who played like 8 years in the big leagues. He's a first base coach in the major leagues now. His dad played in the major leagues. I mean, just absolute, baseball mind. Guy loves it. Early on in my AAA career, he was fouling balls off into the turtle shell during BP, and he was like shaking his head, yeah, and I'm staring at him like, why is this guy shaking his head? Yeah, he's doing awful. You know what I mean? So I go in the locker room after, and I'm like, hey, why were you like so happy about your round when you were fouling balls off? And he's like, I was just, I was trying to do something else. I was working on this certain thing that I know, like, if I can get this, then I'll be good today, So it's just such a different level of work that it's not always necessarily result based. And I love what you said about the athletes not going to be able to hold their move of a major league player, right? A 6-year-old, I would even take it like a 6-year-old to 23 or 24. It all depends on when that body fully matures and they become more of a man and hold that muscle to be able to connect, similar to these guys you see on TV, because they're grown men outside of the baseball field. They just look like a grown man. But they go to the stadium and put their uniform on and they play the baseball that day. So they're in no way are they kids. The body can't hold a swing and the power and technical and speed of an adult when you're at those young ages. So I like to offer kids, again, a system and a process at each age, given what that player needs on that day and what they need for that day, what they need for that season or year, and then again for the career. So each session I have with a kid, no matter how young, I'm taking risk reward into account, kind of with each word that I say and each kind of drill or so that I press them into, because I'm really trying to maximize their ability to let them explore their athleticism too. So I don't require or expect every ball to come off perfectly, especially with a younger kid. I'm trying to push their top end as an athlete and help them just move like a little bit better day in and day out, and then give them a process and help the parent understand that, say, we talked about a kind of a few drills, have the kid swing as hard as he can. What's going to happen? He's going to pull out. He's going to over rotate. To me, pull off, right? So keep your shoulder in, to me, it doesn't tell the whole story, right? So when I watch a swing, I like to ask why. Why is the shoulder flying open? And then have an answer to that, and then just keep going level to level to level. So what I would do in that instance, I see it all the time with youth kids, right? Flying open. So I'll help them understand in the most simple drill possible so that they can carry out the task appropriately and grab onto some information. I'll have them like push or anchor the back foot, and then and do a drill with no stride, no step, just get in a wider stance, anchor the back foot, toss the ball up to him or off a tee, have him just hit it on the barrel. And we're always trying to hit it to the middle of the cage, hit a line drive. That's the goal, right? So what I'm going to do is just start trying to help iron out their lines in their leverage system that they're using, to trying to get bat path on plane for a longer amount of time. So if you watch that same kid that's over rotating and flying open, to me, his lines are all off, where a pitch is coming straight in, like the fan of his bat path is going to be going towards the third base dugout, right? So those lines, I keep hitting the mic. Those lines are so far off. So I want to start helping him iron his lines out and get his lines right. So we'll anchor the back foot, and we'll try to have him even finish the barrel to the back net. So now you can see there's a line from back foot, contact point, back net. Now we have a straight line that goes back through the pitch plane, because the beautiful thing about baseball, it always comes from the same spot, right? So we need to get really good with our lines and being able to operate kind of with the North Star being out in front of us with the pitch plane coming our way the same every time at all levels. So I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
or
it
not.
does, and I love the whether it's tee or soft toss, talking about hitting the back of the cage, and that's one of my favorites as well. It's just like, hey, that's the best coach right there. Like, if you're hitting the sides of the cage, what does that mean? What did you just do? If you hit the pull side of the cage, or if you hit the ground right before the L screen, or you pop, like, find a way to hit the back of the cage, repeat that swing. That can be a great coach as well.
Kevin, I want to, and Nate, I want to ask you guys, and I think this is curious because we see a lot of this. We have kids start at 7, maybe even 6, with coach pitch or machine pitch, and it's dads usually coaching and things like that. And I think, Kevin, you said, I love what you said about your son. I don't want to stop him from just going and getting a baseball and making an out. I agree. He got the out. We'll keep working. That's what practice is for. We'll deal with that. Go get the baseball, son. Yeah. But when you,
I was finish your comment. But I was going to say one more thing about hitting.
But that's where I'm going to. The same thing with hitting. I think, we talk to a 6, 7, 8-year-old and we start with, hold your elbow, do this, do that. Instead of I loved what you said there. Just watch the swing. Let's see what they do organically and start making some notes here. And, don't worry so much about that. Can they see the ball and put the barrel to the baseball? Let's start there first, because if they can't do that, if that's the simplest thing and you can't really do that, I mean, at this age level, at those age levels, there's not a lot of trickery in the baseball. There's not a lot of different things, see the baseball, hit the baseball. Let's start there and then work our way up towards the next step of creating the lines, right?
Yeah. I think, go ahead. Yeah. What were you going to?
I was going to say one thing, and now I'm talking about specifically the youth hitter that I think would serve all youth coaches well specifically. I think saying as little as possible during games is highly important. When the kid is at bat, let the kid take his at bat. Do not talk to him about where his hands are or what he did wrong on a swing. He obviously is doing something wrong with his swing often. Let him have his at bat. We have one verbal cue, and that's get ready to hit. And so if you guys are youth players, and Nate's problem is he has his bat on his shoulder, and Brian, you have your hands down. If I say, Brian, get ready to hit, then you get to your spot. And I don't have to say, hey, lower your, or tell you where to put your hands or what. And then you're saying, if it's just get ready to hit or whatever your verbal cue is, then that kid snaps into attention. But you can work on, I guess, mechanics at a certain age if you want. I have found that the guys that I know that played professionally or collegiately tend to say less to their kids than the families that did not play. They tend to say way more, and I feel like it becomes an information overload and also creates super mechanical swings. And again, I'm talking about at the younger levels. I think you're setting them up for long-term trouble, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it comes back to constraining the athlete. And I think I like to think task at hand, and I operate out of task at hand all of the time. I think it's a really good thing to keep in mind for coaches, parents, so on and so on, is what is the task at hand here. So in game, it's, you want him to go have a good at bat. If I'm a parent, I'm going to pray that he just hits it hard somewhere. I'd be like, hey, that's that's a win for the whole family. If he can just barrel the ball up good somewhere, right? So as soon as we fire in a cue on a mechanic, right? Like I love what you said there. If the kid with his hands down, Justin Turner hits with his hands down. So, how do I know that kid isn't going to be optimal with his hands a little bit lower? So rather than saying, hey, get your hands up. And now the kid's thinking about, all right, hands up. I've been told this all day, every day, all year long, and I keep getting in trouble for not doing that. To me, being in the box and thinking about your hands up is really far from that barreled ball that is our task at hand that we're going for. So
Great.
I like the cues and verbals in my time with kids or consulting clients or whoever it is. I like it to be as close to the task at hand as possible. So I think, be ready to hit. My personal cues were, see it out front and crush it. And it was a way of me, I can unpack that, but and obviously I'm in this room now, not still on the field. So it wasn't every day and every at bat I stuck to that cue and was just flawless with it. Nobody is, right? Yeah. But when I would come back to myself and really feel good and be able to calm down and just see that ball out front and then crush it, that helped me see the ball closer to the pitcher's release point. So now I'm taking the information faster, see it out on front. It is the ball. Now I'm focused on the ball more, and now I'm going to crush it. So preparing to crush it is going to heighten the energy within my body because it knows that there's an aggressive move about to be made, and I need to have that energy ready to go so it can be expressed out on the ball, if that makes sense. So see it out front and crush it to me is just a few words for me to fully prep my body for a high intense situation I'm about to run into, where I'm fully focused on the task at hand, which is barreling up that ball.
Yeah. I find it really interesting in parents or coaches. All you have to do is turn on a big league game or a college baseball game on television. Hitting and pitching are two of the more fascinating things to see, but you very rarely see someone in the big leagues doing something the exact same way, whether it's pitching or hitting. So just keep that in mind when you're coaching your youth baseball team. Yep. That, there are some basic principles like, we want to set up a certain way, but you want to be careful about what you are adding or taking away from these young guys.
I like that because I used to do that. There was a hitting instructor back when I was working with Drew Prater, and we would sit after closing out the cages, and we'd just sit and watch videos of different major league players, and all of them. That was one of the things you notice, is what you said, Kevin. They're all different. They all start. And Craig Counsell was the worst. If anybody watched Craig Counsell, you would not want to do that. That would hurt. It looked painful to me, I thought. But once you got to that space where it was swing time, honestly, everybody looked the same. That's where, to me, it was amazing. You could layer guys, and where they were at that moment when they were ready to swing was amazingly the same.
Yep.
And you have that balance and the hands and where they were starting to come through to the baseball. And that, to me, I always thought was just really amazing because everybody started in a different place.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think in a very similar manner, I think at the youth level, I think the mistakes are kind of the same among the youth, right? And the flying open, and there's like flying opens, just sitting down and back too far and never really getting back to the pitcher to be able to get that speed and that line right, if that makes sense, are a couple things. And then there's the lunging is another thing, right? And then like stepping out, there's a few different rules that I think apply to the youth level that they all kind of go through the same situation. So that's where I like to really like North Star, task at hand, and make sure, and I'll take it, it's what does that kid need at that given time, at the given day. I'll take it down to be like, hey, I'll walk over and be like, hey, do you have a target on your bat that you're trying to hit the ball off of, right? And sometimes it's no, not yet. I'm like, well, when I played, I would walk around holding my barrel all the time because I'm trying to tell my brain, hey, this is the sweet spot. So I'd walk around holding it all the time. So whenever I do a warm-up swing, get my hands loose, I'm looking at the contact point and I'm watching the precise part of the bat I'm trying to hit, and I'm trying to really hone my whole system into that. A lot of these kids, even being able to take it down to as simple of an adjustment as, hey, try to hit the ball on this, this little mark on your bat and just try to hit it up the middle. And it's like giving them whatever they need. Just try to watch the ball hit off of that point, hit it to the back net, and give them 10 swings. And let's see how the mechanics start to iron out. Because again, for us to think we have a better answer than nature's kind of got the point nature's gotten us to, I think is wrong, to be quite frank. And I think a lot of times, like you said, a lot of times the answer is in less talking and less words. And so I think understanding the correct parameters to let them do their thing, and then watch the mechanics start to iron out some, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Kevin, we'll end it on this because I think this is fascinating, especially we're back to the youth and we're talking about this. I find it, and probably I was guilty of this, because we talk to kids, strike zone and this and that. But I think, would you agree? Just let the kids swing at what's going on, because how many bad balls throughout your whole career did you hit? I mean, in that respect, you're never going to, how many really good just cookies did you get? Not many, right?
Yeah. I love that question, because me personally, I reached a point in my career where I realized I'd rather swing at a ball that I felt, like fully committed to, that I saw really well and felt fully in control of my body and was confident that I was going to get the barrel to it and just let the body fly. I had a way higher chance of success just letting the body roll as necessary in that moment than I did swinging at a pitch right down the middle where I wasn't really in a good spot, because I don't want to miss that one. So to me, that's like kind of letting fear play into the second one and playing afraid versus let the kids roll, which, and me, I'm probably on the extreme level of, hey man, task at hand, barrel the ball hard. If a kid swings at a ball over his head and is on the barrel, like I'm probably going to be laughing and go, keep it going, kid, something like that, because the last thing I want to do is constrain an athlete, especially, one of the major problems I see at the high school level, and I'm sure it goes beyond youth, I just don't have much experience in there, is kids taking that fastball over the plate early on in at bat and losing 0-1 over the plate and not being ready to hit or so. So I think anything you can do to help these kids understand, hey, be free. Go try it. If he gives you one over the plate, crush that ball. Just try to smash it. And just take as much of that fear and stress out of their body as you possibly can, body and mind. I think you go that route and kind of see what happens. And then at the end of the day, I talk about maximizing the player, because I truly see person and player are two different things. So it's like maximize the player. And then when the player's game is over, on the ride home, be like, hey, did you have fun? One of my first questions is, what'd you have for lunch today? Just to break some ice and, start talking about their person. It doesn't have to be about necessarily the game and results, and, talk to the person. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
No, I'm a swing guy, especially at the youth level. Like, we don't even take 3-0. Like, it's good. Now, again, it's a pyramid to me. Like, as you get to the higher level of baseball, you talk about swing decisions, and you can start coaching that at a certain point. But yeah, you want to get the bat off the shoulder, because there's things you can do to win games at youth baseball level that don't necessarily make the kids better in the long run. And sitting there walking and whatnot is not the answer yet. As you move up there, you can make a pretty good living doing that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I just to piggyback that here. When I was at my first school, I'm trying to figure out how much do I say, right? So I was a constrained athlete at one point in my career, so early in college, we were getting graded not on the result, it was on the process, right? Great concept, promote a good process. But this is where task at hand, I think our task at hand was off. So I was getting graded on, did I swing at a pitch that was in the zone that I was supposed to be looking at? So like middle to outer half, so I could drive the ball to right center. That's what I was told is where I hit my best balls. So that's the zone I need to be looking at. So my at bats are getting graded at did I make the right swing decision and swing in this area, right? So totally constrained hitter. I was 0 for my first 3 weeks in college, playing Texas, Alabama, Vanderbilt, trying to make sure I don't swing at the wrong pitch. And then my year changed when I went into the cages by myself, and I was like, you know what? I just need to hit like I hit in high school. So, and just shed the stress, like just go up there and hit, get in high school. I, expected it. If I wasn't 2 for 4 that day, I was like, I stink, so just expecting success, assuming success, that you're in control of the situation. It's going to go well, all of these things. And I hit 429 the rest of the year, so or finished 429, I don't know what the math is, but I hit well over that to be able to finish at 429. But so I went from 0 for 3 weeks to start my career, college career at the Division I level, feeling like a constrained hitter to opening up my player and finishing out really strong, so yeah, I think it's all freedom of the athlete to operate. And yeah, I like the way you talk about turning your kids loose. I think it's just very appropriate.
We've also seen plenty of hitters with beautiful swings, maybe technically sound swings that are terrible hitters, and guys that maybe have rougher swings or something that you might not teach that are really good hitters.
Oh yeah.
See the ball, hit the ball.
Yep. I mean, look at who are the best. Freddie Freeman. Like, are you going to teach a guy to hit like Freddie? No, you're not going to. But he's one of the best hitters in the world year after year. Obviously, there's some of the top end guys that are smooth as can be, but I actually recently ran across a video of Bregman in high school, and it was one of his, scouting. I don't know what it was, events or whatever. And I assume it was trending probably all over, but it was like Bregman in high school versus now. And you watch him move, and I'm like, man, all of the negative things he would be told that are wrong with his swing when he was in high school, it was weak. It doesn't look clean. And now you see him as a grown man in that version, and he's just the most consistent hitter year after year in big situations, so on and so on. And all he cares about is consistency. But it's just that
it goes back to your earlier point about being physically able to do what he wants to do, and just having the control of his body, which doesn't happen as a teenager, right?
No.
Like,
and honestly,
you learn that over thousands and thousands of repetitions and swings.
Yeah.
That is, Kevin and I have talked a lot, and I don't say a lot about, but that's one of the things Kevin talks about a lot is, yeah, when this kid gets physically able to do that, he could be, it still could be. You don't know. Nobody knows really, but that's one of the things he talks about a lot is just the physical ability and the difference. I'm going to quote him because I think I use it and I quote Kevin all the time. It's why they call it boys high school baseball and men's college baseball. And I think that's when he said that to me the first time, I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
it just does, because I remember when I was in high school, I was 5'11" and 150 pounds, soaking wet. And, so it's a big difference from what I was when I was 22.
Yeah.
That's just the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, all these things, I recently dropped a course trying to put all of the kind of stuff we've talked about into a piece of content that you can grab onto, just really with these parents who are seeking out information and looking to help, because everybody wants the best for their kid, right?
Yeah.
So to me, I got into this space because of the information that I see out there. And again, the task at hand and all of these things we've talked about and constraining athletes. And I think there's so much information out there that's not appropriate for just truly helping maximize players' potential. So I literally made up a course recently dropped just to help parents give them some of these parameters that they can allow their athlete to grow in, no matter what the parent background is and so on. So as always, I hope that the game, and I think it is starting to swing back a little bit more to winning players, highly competitive players, rewarding successes of these again, JUCO, D3, D2, D1 guys who grind out there, and their stories are getting told more and more and more. So we can see what like kind of the reality of the correct pathway forward really is. And then I really hope that the teams that keep on paying for winning players continue to win at the highest level. I think that's one of the most important things that's happened in the last handful of years here. Guys like the Rangers going and making a big signings with just winning players. Obviously, the Dodgers are getting the best players in the world, but who are they getting? They're not just the most talented players in the world. They're winning players. They went and got Tommy Edman, and he's a major factor for them year after year. Is he the best player in the world? Most talented? Is that a better way to word it? Like, I don't know, but I played against Tommy when he first got up to AAA, and I was talking to Stubby Clapp there, the AAA manager, and I was like, who is this kid? And he's like, he's first year in, he's 22 or whatever. And I'm like, holy smokes, he's going to be good because of the details that were underneath his game and the quality of the at-bats and the way he would grind a pitcher out and then be able to capitalize at the end of the at-bat and be a productive hitter. And it was just, you see those kind of guys continue to get more and more success. Brewers are bringing in guys that are undersized one after the other. I don't know if they're going to need an undersized coach or not, but I'm waiting for the
get you in there.
Yeah.
Those are great points. And when I talk to players, in general, like you think of like I'm thinking right now of the Cardinals and the Brendan Donovan trade. My boys were devastated because I've talked to them the whole time. Like, this is the guy we're going to watch. Tommy Edmonds, the Nate Orf. Like, this is like 99% of you guys. Like the physical freak shows, the Shoheis, the Freddie Freemans, the 1% of the 1% in terms of what they're able to do physically. That is not most of us. So I do really appreciate picking out big leaguers that. And I say normal in parentheses because they're not. Like, they're special. Tommy Edman, Nate Orf, like, hey, that's who you got to try to emulate because you got a fighting chance. You're never going to be 6'4" or 5", left-handed, 240 pounds, and be able to hit the ball into the third deck of a stadium. So, like, there's still a path forward for you. How do you do it? And I think looking at guys like that, the winning baseball player is the path for 99.99% of players.
Yep. I would say when you're talking to these guys, you keep bringing up kind of how wide or vast the pool of players are. So you're getting these top end guys and saying, hey, there's always going to be someone, trying to like take your spot and so on and so on. And I love that because that's a very honest perspective. And I would take it farther. Me personally, those were the guys that I was beating out and taking their jobs as I continued to climb the ranks, and they would fizzle at some point, and I kind of got to continue on, and it was me trying to chase all of these edges, and the more talented player that didn't was the one I'd be, I would end up kind of surpassing there for a bit. But I also played in Latin America a couple of times, the Venezuela and Dominican Republic in some winter leagues, which really opened me up to along those same lines of it's not just a pool of the best player in your conference or your state or the nation. He's top 100 in the nation. I'm like, all right, well, there's other nations out there that have their top players as well. It's a huge pool. And one of my experiences in the Dominican is before the game, hitting in the cages, they're running a full little league game and just loads of passion and competitiveness coming. And it's in a gravel parking lot right next to the stadium. And that's where that league plays every weekend. So I think it's good to really hold perspective on it's not just it's not just your high school area in the Midwest and Missouri or the nation. It's the whole world. And I think the Asian cultures are going to continue pushing with the wild success and the money that the Dodgers have been making with Ohtani and stuff like that. So I think the pool of players is only going to grow from other nations. So for the top end guy, it's like you better be chasing edges. And one of the hard things is you never know how good you are or how good you're not until you start to actually learn that and overcome and kind of hit these next steps and then beat the next level. So for these high school kids that don't really know, I like to have that kind of perspective and be like, well, there's kids that in the Dominican and Venezuela, they're not going to middle school. They train twice a day. Like they didn't, so if you're not training at a clip, when it's the right time and that high school level, if you're that top guy, it's like that the thing that got you on that top 10 list isn't going to be the thing that's going to take you to the big leagues. I absolutely promise you that. It's going to be everything you do underneath that list and underneath your talent and your tools given that's going to give you your shot to beat the next level and so on and so on. So I love that perspective you bring, and I just wanted to widen it even further beyond. Yeah.
I love it, man.
Yep.
That's good stuff, bro.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking time. We'll get you back on the show. That was fun. I enjoyed that conversation greatly. And I can see Kevin.
I can
he's
make
like
3 more shows out of the last 1 minute of this talk.
When do we start? I feel the same.
You got to write that down. We're going to get him back. We're going to get him back because I love this because there's so much here. There really is. You're just scratching the surface because what are we doing? How are we helping our younger athletes understand what it takes to move to that? And, I think we have to address youth baseball. This is kind of a thought process we're talking about. It's kind of a health check. Where are we at right now? And I think we've seen ebbs and flows, especially since you were a kid playing ball, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's so much different. So what does it look like in 10 years now? Where does it go? How does it change this, that? And I think it's going to be interesting to watch. Yeah. I really do.
Yeah. And I think the real question is what can you do to still kind of hold some of the benefits of the older school ways of training and such nowadays to penetrate some of the things that I think any parent out there has got to feel just a crazy amount of pressure these days. But, you see it time and time again. There's plenty of players that keep getting to the next level that find a way to kind of penetrate that thought process or particular path and so on and so on. So I appreciate you guys as well, because again, I'm trying to intake as much information on the youth world and so on and so on. So to hear your guys' perspectives is great for me as well.
I appreciate it, man. Well, that's why he's the guru, not me, dude. I get it. So that's what I get every time.
That was fun.
So, folks, we appreciate it. And a shout out to Coach Draghi over at Eureka High School. We were there last week. Appreciate the hospitality. Dropped us a hat. I mean, we're filling up the table here, Kevin.
Looking good.
And I'll tell you what, Kevin, tell me if that front row isn't going to be tough.
It's going to be a good group right there.
Coach P's going to be upset because I got his hat in the back here, though.
I'm a Howell boy.
There you go. There it is.
There you go, Coach P.
Here we go.
There we go.
I love it. I love it. So we appreciate it. We got some new stuff dropping. I want to say I apologize to the Limber folks. We didn't get that up last night. It'll be up today. My fault. It's my fault. We'll get that taken care of. But I got to shout out. Thank you, Mr. Calcaterra, for letting us know that. We appreciate it. We'll have that up here. It's probably already up. So there you go.
We'll be talking plenty about Limburg this spring.
Yeah. Coach Scott, they're going to be good.
Really?
Yeah.
Right on?
Yeah. Got some dudes on that team. So there you go. Folks, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe. Hit the like button. Helps the algorithms, all that kind of stuff. We appreciate you being here. And as I said, we have our exclusive content now. Lindbergh is coming up. We got Coach Snyder with Rockwood Summit coming up. We got some great things. We just finished a player spotlight with Troy Fisher. out of Liberty North High School. That's going to be coming up. We got our player spotlights going on. Cole Milliken from Lebanon High School is up now. So we got a lot of cool stuff. Please, if you join the club, we have our legacy membership going right now, 50% off. It helps us continue to do what we're doing here. And, guys like Nate, we appreciate him being here talking baseball. This helps us continue to get this information out, to talk with parents, especially. Having information, understanding how to go through the process, it's huge. It really is. So, Kevin, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. This is a fun one.
Folks, until next time, everybody, have a great day in the Lord. And all you pitchers, Kevin, it's that time of year.
Keep throwing strikes.
There you go. You hear that from the dugout, right?
Yeah. And then take those strikes yard, boys. Let's go.
There's the advice. Right? So I was going to ask you, what hitter's advice, right?
Yeah. Just keep hitting. Hitters hit, man. Put yourself in that category of a hitter. Yeah.
Folks, we will see you all next time.